great animated movie came out. How many of you saw or read The Polar Express?
Yes. Own it. Own it. Have it. Own it.
For those of you who haven't, quick synopsis. The main character is a boy named Billy, whose voice is played by Tom Hanks. Billy, on Christmas Eve, finally struggles to fall asleep when he's startled awake by a train in his front yard. He puts on his nightgown. What do boys wear? Robe. He puts on his robe. He hurries out to the front yard and he climbs upon the Polar Express, which is headed to
the North Pole.
The North Pole, gathering some other children along the way. Billy arrives. There are thousands of children there to wish Santa farewell on his travels around the globe. Billy finds out that one child gets to choose the first Christmas gift. And of course, he is chosen. Billy chooses
the bell.
The bell. One of the bells from the reindeer. He loves the sound of the reindeer bell. He asks Santa for that to be his gift. Santa obliges. Billy takes the bell, jingles it, and puts it into the pocket of his robe. They board the Polar Express on the way home, at which time Billy realizes that that treasured bell had fallen out of a hole in his robe pocket and is gone forever. Dejected, he goes back to sleep, wakes up Christmas morning, opens his gifts, when he and his sister realize there's one strange present under the tree. It has Billy's name on it. He opens it up. What is it?
The bell.
It's the bell. He jingles the bell in excitement, more excited than all of his other gifts. His parents look sad on his behalf. They can't hear the bell. They think, wow, strange that Billy would be so excited about a broken Christmas gift. But he and his sister, they hear it. And each year, Billy brings the gift out as a reminder, rings the bell, and several years later, he takes it out again, he rings the bell, and his sister can't recall or can't hear the sound. It's silent to her ears, but not to Billy. So the subtle yet profound lesson in this movie is what?
Whoopsie.
Don't forget the sound of the bell. What keeps the sound of the bell alive for Billy?
Belief.
Belief, yeah. The subtle and profound lesson is belief. December of 2004, I went over to the house of my good friend and business partner then, Emily Howard. Both my daughters had seen the Polar Express. Both her daughters had seen the Polar Express. It was fresh on their mind. So we sat down to enjoy some family holiday cheer. I was sitting on an ottoman in a corner when her youngest daughter, Ryan, approached me, and she kind of cornered me on the ottoman. Ryan, stand for a second. Now that's 9 years ago. So Ryan was just as pretty, but only this tall. Okay, Ryan, you can sit. So Ryan said to me, Mr. Rich, we saw Polar Express. I said, yes, Ryan, we saw it too. Both Taylor and Carly and I, 3 of us went to see it. She said, Mr. Rich, Billy goes to the North Pole. I said, yes, Ryan, I've seen the movie. Great movie, and Billy's a good character. She said, Mr. Rich, Billy gets to choose the first present. Yes, Ryan. We saw the movie just a couple weeks ago. It was a great movie, Ryan. Got a little closer to me. Mr. Rich, Billy lost the bell on his way home. And this continued. And as it continued, this replaying of Polar Express, which at this point I knew that's what I was in for. So I sat for the duration, trapped in the corner. But Ryan, as the movie progressed in her mind and the climax was approaching closer, she got more and more energetic and excited and moved closer to me, just ignoring my personal space. She's all in here. So all 4'11" of her was leaning and Mr. Rich and Mr. Rich and then her excitement. That's when she leaned on her in, stretched on her tippy toes and looked me in the eyes like she was peering in my soul and said, Mr. Rich, strong and the passion, every cell in her body believed in Santa. And she let me know that. And I wondered later, reflecting back, what in my life do I believe that strongly in? Where do I have such a strong conviction, much like the conviction that Ryan Howard has in Santa Claus? So our conversation today is about an area in our life, a piece of our life, that perhaps we could all individually and collectively believe more deeply in. And it's the idea of abundance. Now, abundance can be a complex concept. Several years ago, I was in Virginia Beach in a leadership conference. I was in the audience. Our opening speaker was the mayor of Virginia Beach. She was going to bring some leadership concepts and principles to us. A Hispanic woman, about 4'11", not much taller than Ryan was 9 years ago. It was actually a step stool for her so that we could see her above the podium. She stepped up. She looked at the audience and said, "Leadership is a lot like pornography." Victor, she got my attention. I leaned in. She said, "Leadership is a lot like pornography. It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it." And so, you know, abundance is a lot like pornography, Lane. It's hard to define. But we know it when we see it, right? We know it when we're in its presence. We can feel it. It's palpable. So, let's look at 3 potential ways we might be able to help us better define this elusive concept of abundance. First, abundance is our nature. Abundance is our nature. It didn't take God very long to put this out in the book of Genesis. You, us, are created in my image. It didn't take God very long to let us in on that key awareness. You are created in my image. Now, God, having no physical presence, omniscient, omnipresent, was not referring to physical image. There's no maleness, no femaleness, there's no physical presence. So if God says, "You are created in my image," that must be an essence image, a spiritual image. And we know that God is the essence of abundance. That the creator of all is abundant. We are created in that image, therefore it is our nature, our DNA to be abundant. Now at that point, this message is over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not really though, right?
Mm-hmm.
It should be over right now. Mm-hmm. Yet many of us, perhaps all of us, in some way, doubt that statement. We do. We doubt the nature of our own abundance. Now, my youngest daughter, Carly, she's here, is adopted. Now, her nature, her DNA, comes from her birth mother and birth father. That's her nature. Yet, it is common for people to say to Carly, "You're just like your dad." She loves that.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, a few weeks ago, Sue's, right? Carly made a comment to one of her friends, Sue's. And what did Sue say? Sue said, Carly told me later, "Dad," Sue said, "that sounds just like Rich." So where did that come from? Carly, who is not connected to my nature, where did that come from? The other side of nature. The debate we always have.
Nurture.
Yeah, it's nurture, right? Because she spent a lot of time with me. Since she was 28 days old. She's been immersed in richness. but it is. So here's the dilemma for us. Our nature is abundance, but our nurture is not. You see, most of us, all of us, have had teaching, have had modeling in our lives, have had messages brought to us throughout our lives which have not been messages of abundance. We have not modeled, observed, heard, or been convinced of our abundance. And that nurturing has gotten in the way, the lies have gotten in the way of our truth, of our nature. In light of this, it makes sense that we would have, as it said in the book of Hebrews, a great cloud of witnesses, or as we say here at Unity, some great spiritual masters who would come, show up here, and help us see more clearly the way of our true self. That could provide some teaching for us, some modeling for us, some examples for us, so we would be more in line with our nature. One of those great spiritual teachers is a guy called Jesus Christ. And he says in this book of John, he says, I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. You see, Christ got that one of his purposes here was to show the way, was to demonstrate the way of our nature, was to show us what does it look like to live abundantly. You notice he did not say, I have come to teach you how to suffer through this horrible life. Because someday you'll be in heaven. No, he did not say that. But we bought that lie because that was taught to us. Because if you went to church like I did, you heard that clearly or implied. You heard that this experience was to be miserable. And you should be glad for it. Right? You heard that? I heard that message. You see, the modeling of our nature has got to be recalibrated in order for us to get our true nature. Here's how it works well. Now, when we're born, all of us by nature have a predetermined, predestined tendency to walk. Now, somewhere between 6 and 18 months, that happens. Yet it's not left alone. There's this nurturing that goes on by tall people. Right? First of all, when we come out, we start to observe tall people walking. We see them all around us. We see them exercising this nature of walking. And when we feel the urge in us, when we feel that urge to get up, what do? Man, they get crazy. Right? We get all crazy. Oh, yes. We tape it, right? We tape it. And then they fall, and we don't say, what is that? Like, oh, that was so good. You almost had it. We help them back up again. You see, we get the concept that it's in them already. But we can encourage it and bring it out, can't we? We can inspire them on to bring out this nature. And you know what? Guess what we learn to do? We learn to walk. More than that, though, right? Like Christ said, I didn't come for you to have life, have it abundantly. We learn to dance. Some of us not very good. We learn to dance. We learn to run, right? We learn much more than walk because the nature is there. Yet, can you imagine if we came out and every tall person was crawling? Every tall person was crawling. And when we felt that urge, which we would have, we felt the urge somewhere to follow that nudging to stand up. What if the tall people said, so you're too good to crawl? Yeah, Mr. Big Shot! Yeah. You want to walk. Around here, we crawl. What if that was the message we got? Along with the modeling, there's a very good chance that many of us would never walk. We would put away the calling of our nature because the modeling and the message and the nurturing in this experience, in this fleshly experience, would overpower us. So, principle number 1, it is our nature. Second quality regarding abundance It is the law. It is the law. How many of you this summer planted a garden? Yeah, we have some garden planters. How many of you were shocked and surprised with what grew? How many of you came back inside? Tomatoes! Tomatoes out there! How many of you were shocked and surprised by what grew in your garden? No.
No.
No, why? Why were you not shocked or surprised with what grew in your garden, garden people?
We expected it.
Because you planted that and you expected it, right? That's called the law of sowing and reaping. It's the law of sowing and reaping, and we get it. We understand that a few months ago, some of you went out to your yards and you planted a seed with the full expectation that in due time, that seed would grow and you would have a harvest, right? It's the law of sowing and reaping. That is what abundance really follows, is that law. I work with business leaders, Todd mentioned, I work in the business community, and often I hear, you're going to find this hard to believe, I work with leaders who complain. And sometimes they'll say, Rich, maybe you can help me with my people. They don't seem to care. They just don't seem to care about the business. So let me ask you a question. You want them to care. It's a fair expectation that you would want your employees to care and demonstrate that careness in your business. Tell me about the caring that you're sowing. Tell me about how every day you sow caringness into their field. Certainly you wouldn't expect a crop to come up with something you haven't planted. Tell me more about that. Or they might say, Rich, our people aren't very loyal. I don't think the younger generation's loyal today. They're not a loyal people. I'll say, well, certainly that's fair to expect, that we should have loyal people inside our organizations. Just help me see, before we talk any more, about the loyalty you plant in them. How do you demonstrate your loyalty so that we could then expect a crop of loyalty to come up in your business? Those questions often lead to silence. It's really a law. It's a law of sowing and reaping. When I was a young kid, so I grew up in central New Jersey, fourth of 5 Schlentzes, very traditional 1960s, 70s, 80s upbringing. And although we were a big loving family, we didn't say it or show it. And that was pretty common. We didn't say it. In other words, we did not use the phrase, I love you, growing up. And we did not show it in affection. There was very little hugging, touching. Yeah, we knew we were loved, so I'm okay with that. Somehow, when I was little, I got a thought. Because when we talk about this law, really our seeds of abundance are thoughts, right? Our seeds of abundance are thoughts and feelings and intentions and actions. That's what we're sowing, expecting a harvest. So somehow I had this thought that when I grow up, when I have my family, we're going to say, I love you all the time. I have no idea where this came from. We're going to hug all the time. And I had this thought that stayed with me all through my life. And then when I had children, from the minute they came out, before they came out, I would speak that phrase to them. I love you. I love you. I wanted to be part of their language, part of their common language, as opposed to the awkward language that it was in my youth. And when they came out, we started touching each other and hugging each other and rocking each other and playful with each other. And to this day, you'd be hard-pressed to see a text message, hear a phone call, or hear a conversation with my daughters that did not involve the phrase, I love you. And if you see me with my daughters, you're going to see us holding hands. It's 23 and 17. And you're going to see one of them probably sit on my lap sometime during the time we're together. You see, that's a harvest that started with a seed of thought See, that's it. That's our power. Our power is in the seed of thought, the seed of intention, the seed of belief, the seed which follows with the seed of action, which creates in us, which works in us, the natural law of sowing and reaping. Another law is this law of greater return. A law of greater return. Because when you plant that seed, when you plant that tomato plant, you do not get, Jack, a tomato. What do you get? More than you can take care of.
Right.
The Bible says more than you can ask or imagine. Sometimes we have that with tomatoes. We have more than I can ask or imagine. I've got to give these away. So it's the law of greater return. Abundance is not only about reaping what we sow, it's about really having a larger return than we actually sow, which is contrary to our teaching. Again, I remember, do you remember reading the back of packages? And this is, I think, showing my generation. It used to say, like a warning on a cereal box, this is packaged by volume or weight. Some settling may occur during shipping. Which basically meant what? Was a scientific way to say a lot of the bag is what? Air. A lot of the bag is air. Or if you open up your vacuum container, how much cotton's in there? So a lot of the messages we get are not about a greater return. It's actually a less return. Right? I've heard teaching growing up that sounds like, be careful what you ask for. You get what you pay for. See, those aren't abundance teaching, because God says, no, you don't get what you pay for. You get a whole lot more than you've ever paid for. So about 2005, 2006, my business was at a block. And it's not what I wanted. In other words, my earning had stayed stable for a long time, Angela, and I was not, it wasn't sitting right with me. Something about that told me there was more there, that there was more capability. Yet I was finding this block in my earnings, in my business growth. And I started to rethink that. I started to look for new nurturing. In other words, I realized that some of the block was my programming. The teaching that I had received growing up was actually preventing a crop from developing. So I looked for new programming, people and messages that were more in line with my nature. Matter of fact, one of those books that I used is this little book right here by John Randolph Price. It's called The Abundance Book. The Abundance Book. And there's several of these in our bookstore. Right? They're $7. I use this as one of the methods to help me reprogram my nurture. And over time, from sowing these new thoughts, these new beliefs, these new seeds, these new feelings, these new actions, things started to change. And 2010 and 2011, a crop showed up just like it was supposed to. Now here's the interesting thing. During 2011, several times, I would leave my computer or my phone where calls for new business would come in, or emails for new business would show up, and I'd go upstairs to Ivy when she was resting, and I'd say, Ivy, I can't stop it. She's like, what? What can't you stop? I said, the business. I can't stop the business. It's coming and coming. I can't even get hold of it. It was like tomatoes, right? There's so many on the vine, as quick as you pick them up. It was really the evidence, though. It was the evidence of sowing, reaping. It was the evidence of a greater return. It was more than I could even keep up with. It is a law. First, it's our nature. Second, it's a law. Third, it's your choice. Third, it's your choice. I read from a blog recently, and I can't cite this guy because I copied it and forgot to write who it was from. Here's what I heard. A problem arises when discussing this concept due to the apparent subjectivity of the term abundant. What is abundant living for one may be absolutely unsatisfying for another. A hard-charging, A-type business person, exotic cars, vacations, rock climbing, would not consider a rocking chair on the porch, a vegetable garden out back, and a weekly round of golf at the local course to be fulfilling. Yet they would probably suit a retired senior citizen just fine. One person's bowl of cherries is another bowl of cherry pips. So here's the point here. Here's the point here. It is your nature. It is the law. Yet it's our choice. It's your choice to what abundance looks like for you. And sometimes that can get us turned around. Because I think that my abundance looks like your abundance. And then that creates incongruency or concern. I must not be abundant. I must not be abundant because that's what abundance looks like. That's not the truth. The truth is it looks and feels just like you can imagine it to be. Carly was graduating from preschool. We dressed her in this little graduation gown, walked her down to the school site. Part of their ceremony was each child would say what they wanted to be when they grew up. So we were the Schlentzes, we were S, so there was several children before Carly had her chance. Now I was stoked. Here's why. Man, even though at 5 years old, we had worked on visioning, big dreams. So I knew she was going to nail this. I'm like, wait till they hear what my daughter's going to be. Because she's out there. She's free. She's been modeled. She's been taught how to think big. So one of the kids are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, policeman. I was like, bam, that's nothing. We're going to kill that. I went to a little girl, what are you going to be when you grew up? President. I was like, small, big. I went to Carly and I'm like, small, big. Oh, but I got the Carly. Carly, Schlentz, what do you want to be when you grow up? She looked at me. I was like, oh, big. No limits. I went back to the microphone. She looked at me again. I was like, yes. I want to be a McDonald's worker. The place got silent. They're looking at me. I did not know what to say. I'm like, she meant McDonald's franchise. She's going to own franchises. Whole conglomerate. You see, here's the deal. That was perfectly fine. But Carly, what an abundant vision. McDonald's worker. What a great job. You have soft serve ice cream. Pickles. So it was fine. You see, she decided at that point in her life that was what abundance would look like for her. And she had every right to fulfill that, an honorable role, serving other people. That was my issue. It was not hers, because we choose what abundance looks like. Emily Howard, I mentioned her longtime friend, business partner. In 2002, we began working together in the Dale Carnegie franchise of North Carolina. One of our first business meetings, we sat down. I said, Emily, here's the deal. We got to buy this thing. She's like, I'm on. I want to buy this thing. We can't be employees. We got to buy this thing. And we made an agreement. We entered an agreement. At that point, we sowed the seeds for buying a Dale Carnegie franchise in North Carolina. And we continued to nurture that belief for years and to act upon that belief. And around 2008, 2009, something stirred in me telling me I had to go in a different direction. Because we had a great friendship first. I said to Emily, I got to go. My work is taking me other places. I got to go. She said, go on. Go on with yourself. I got to stay. I said, sure you do. I went and I followed my choice. And she stayed with her choice. And September of 2012, Emily Howard bought Central and Eastern North Carolina Dale Carnegie franchise.
Wow.
Seed was sown, and she'd also prefer that you call her Ms. President. That is her preferred title. So here's the thing. Abundance is not necessarily money. Let's just get that right out, because that often sidetracks us, that we think that, or we limit abundance to money, finances, work, jobs. That's so easy to go to. It's our default mechanism, and it's limiting abundance, because abundance is so much more than that. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people, we may be them ourselves, we certainly know and have read about many people who have had abundant riches, wealth, and have been very unfulfilled in their life. So let's release that as a group. Let's release that abundance must look like that. It may look like that, and it's so much more. In Galatians 5:22-23, here's a verse. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. What that means, there's no law, means there's no limit. Listen, there's no limit in love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. I know a lot of people who would cash in some checks for some patience or peace or love. Right? Mm-hmm. So abundance is all of those things available to us. There's no limit in abundance. If so, we've canceled out the whole intent of the word. In my family, my daughters and I have created a very specific law of abundance. And this is without practice. Carly, I'm going to ask you this, so do right. Don't mess me up again like you did in preschool. When we go to someplace to buy something, or to register, or to visit, we fully expect, her sister and I fully expect, a law of abundance in Schlentz to show up. What is that law?
Line luck.
Say it louder.
Line luck.
It's the law of line luck. We've claimed this about 4 or 5 years ago. We claimed it because we were aware that whenever we went someplace, the line was always shorter when we got there than when we finished. And in our awareness, we started saying, look at what's happening. So we named it, and I don't like the word luck necessarily, but it's the best way at the time. We called it Schlentz line luck. Now, what happens is that everywhere we go, Schlentz line luck looks up. It's our law of abundance. It's how we choose to see it. And it never fails. Our friends, their friends have found out about it and take advantage of it. Taylor has texted us, Dad, my friends just got Schlentz line luck. Because she was there. Now, about a year ago, LaDonna and I were traveling, headed to Nova Scotia with a layover in Newark. She said she had to go to the bathroom. Certainly. I noticed as she went into the bathroom, she walked right in. Moments later, the line started building. Building, until the line was out into the airport terminal. I could not wait for her to finish the bathroom. Came out. I said, do you know what just happened? We'd only been dating a few months, our first vacation. I imagine that might have been a little bit intense right there. So I said I was going to the bathroom. So I think that's what happened. I said, no, look around, turn around. You see that line? That was not there when you went in. That is Schlentz line luck. Now, I wasn't done. I went into it. I said, if you break up with me, you will not be covered. You got to be in our fold to get the line up. It's an abundance that we impart upon the God. You will be. You see those people there? You see those people? You will be one of them. Do not break up with them. This worked. So it shows up really any way we want. You decide. You decide how it shows. Now, we started this morning talking about how to define abundance. That it's difficult to define, much like pornography and leadership, it's difficult to define, but we know it when we see it. Here's the reality. Let's just say this. I don't get it. Is it our nature? Is it the law? And is it our choice? Yes, yes, yes. I still don't get it. And that doesn't have to stop us. Because you don't get how a dead seed turns into a living plant. You don't really get it. But you apply it. And you expect it. I fly for my business. I understand there's a law called aerodynamics. I don't get it. I don't get how 300 people in a tin can rise up off the earth and settle in Atlanta to get your connection. I don't get it. But I take advantage of it. Full advantage of it. And I'm actually in awe of it. Oftentimes I find myself thinking, this is wild. We are in the air. This is wild. You know, and Rumi says to us to sell our cleverness and purchase bewilderment. He says to sell our cleverness and purchase bewilderment, because abundance isn't about being clever. It's not about getting it. It's about accepting it. It's about having almost a childlike acceptance of our nature. How did it get there? God put it there. About the law. Who designed it? God. About being our choice. Why? I don't know. It is there for us, individually and collectively. It's your nature. It's the law. And it's your choice. Abundance. Let's say our affirmation together. I awaken in total trust that everything in the universe brings me this day is a gift of love and support. I feel deep appreciation for these gifts, and I unconditionally accept them all. I feel the abundance bestowed upon me by the universe, and I joyfully accept all the riches inherited this day. In accepting these gifts of love and support, I express fully to all I see and interact with. Namaste.